Get Shorty. Yeah, we're talking Get Shorty today. Barry Levinson film. I think this is our first one. I can't remember if we talked about him before. I really don't. Never been one of my guys. And truthfully, this isn't one of my movies either. I have definitely seen parts of it before. It's one of those movies that is just so ingrained in my mind as like something that is a cultural touchstone that people talk about. But I wanted to do a Gene Hackman movie, and the time I'm recording this, I just wasn't really ready for a big, heavy thing. Like, we weren't going to do Unforgiven, or Hoosiers, or The French Connection. So, Get Shorty. It's the time to do it. I think this era of, like, Hollywood self-mockery is really interesting, and people enjoy it. I think this is like one people like. It's fine. I think it's fine. I don't particularly love a lot of the performances in it, and I think some of it falls apart. If you want to see John Travolta try to be cool, I think this will work for you. It's a Travolta film. I don't think we've talked about Travolta much on this channel. A polarizing actor. Is he good? He is fine. I don't know if I'd say he's great in anything, but I like him enough. This era of Travolta is like post-Pulp Fiction trying to reinvent himself as like the cool leading man again. It's not my cup of tea for Travolta. It's a shame we're talking about this movie, really. I don't know why we're doing this one. Man. But let's talk about Gene Hackman for a bit. One of our greatest. I think Gene Hackman could easily be in contention for one of the most influential and important actors of his generation, maybe of all time, because his career has spanned throughout multiple decades. He is just so talented. And we're going to talk about a movie where he's making fun of Hollywood. It's a making fun of Hollywood episode, everyone. I feel like we've done these before, but whatever. Here we go. Chili Palmer, that's Travolta's character. He's like a gangster that's based out of Miami, right? He is asked to go find this guy who stole money from this laundromat or something, and that guy is off in Vegas. But then there's another person, because the guy he's working for gets killed, so now he's like being taken over by Dennis Farina, so Dennis Farina wants the money for this other thing, but for the other guy, he's got to go to Harry Zim, who is this like producer and director out in Hollywood, and he'll get involved with him and get the money from him that's connected to this other stuff. It means nothing. Truthfully, it means nothing. The setup for this movie, like the first 10 minutes about Travolta in Miami, realizing the guy he worked for is dead, all that surprise bullshit, it means nothing. It's just about getting him to Hollywood and introducing him to Harry Zim, which is the Gene Hackman character. He's a cool director who like makes low budget horror stuff, and his company doesn't make like the blockbusters or like the prestigious films. He just makes garbage and crap. But he came across this script that somebody wrote called Mr. Lovejoy, and he's like, if I produce this, I can get on top. That's why I need the money from your boss to make this movie, is what that is. And the entire time, from literally the beginning sequence where Travolta shows up into Hollywood, he just goes, this town's crazy, but man, do I like it. And that's this movie. The rest of this movie is going to be, we get the money to make this film, we get people on board to make this film, and some mob connections show up here and there. It is a comedy, and it is funny, but I think it's more like the type of humor you'd enjoy if you are somebody who works in the industry, and that it could be polarizing. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of this era of Hollywood in particular, so the jokes and stuff, they're not my favorite part of this. It's just like a who's who of who's going to be somebody some other time, and that's kind of cool. Travolta, he like instantly just starts to like hit on Gene Hackman's girlfriend, played by Renee Russo. I like Renee Russo. I've always liked Renee Russo. I think she's really fun in this movie. She is like She is an actress for like the B-list movies, the B-movie stuff, and she wants to like build her career up a bit. And Harry might be the way to do that. Maybe she go to like some other place to like build it up. She's also the ex of the biggest star in Hollywood, Martin Weir, and it's played by Danny DeVito, which that's a fun joke too. The stuff with DeVito I think really works. You can tell he was just like, okay, I'll commit myself to this project. I'll be the narcissistic weirdo who can hook up with any lady. That sounds really fun. Isn't it silly? But it's not like silly because DeVito was a big movie star from the 80s to 90s. Like, he was directing his own movies. People went to see him. So it's not, like, weird that it's DeVito, you know? Because we saw DeVito be successful. It's not, like, funny where it's like, oh, man, we got this character actor to play, like, the George Clooney of his time. It's like, no, DeVito was this guy. So it's very weird, like, that's the joke. But we know it. Is the joke that he looks like that? I don't know. That doesn't really work. But they want to get him on board to do this movie, so they're going to schmooze him to do stuff that way. The other, like, running bit is Travolta, like, sets himself up as a producer, so he's pitching to people the, like, case that he's running, where he's trying to find the guy who stole the money from the laundromat that he figured out he got from the wife who's in Vegas spending it all. And he's like, well, it's the story I'm working on. I don't know how the story's going to end. And he's pitched it to all these people as like a really cool Hollywood story. It's fine. It is fine. It works well enough. But a lot of this movie just relies on you thinking Chili Palmer is the coolest guy you've ever seen. And I don't know if that's true. Because he's just kind of like a movie loser. He loves movies. His greatest downfall is how much he loves movies. He invites Rene Russo to go on a date to the movies, and she doesn't show up. And she shows up late eventually. And she just sits behind him, watching him recite the scenes in the film. Like, this is the greatest film ever made. And he's like hitting the shoulder of the guy in front of him, like, can you believe this stuff? We used to make movies. Pictures and stuff used to be made here. Hollywood, isn't it crazy? It's just like being a gangster. Everyone's doing stupid stuff for ludicrous reasons. like, okay, sure. There's also a subplot, or not, I guess not the subplot, it's the other plot that involves Harry having himself be intertwined with another set of gangsters, or just like people who require money from him. And that includes our next cavalcade of characters and actors who will go on to be more famous. Like Delroy Lindo, who shows up. He has like the side plot of kind of similar to Chili Palmer, where he starts off being a gangster, but he's like, I'd like to produce movies. He goes over like the script to like Mr. Lovejoy, and he's like, this is how I would change things here and that and do this. And it's like, okay, cool. So then his plot kind of becomes like, I want to get out of here. I want to do this thing. But then everyone like betrays him, so he goes off the rails and starts going against everyone in his life. He dies eventually because Chili becomes friends with the bear, and Bear is played by James Gandolfini a few years before he's going to become the guy we know him to become. He's got a big beard, still balding, but has a long ponytail, and he's like a stunt guy, and he works for Delroy Lindo's character. And they get into scrapes and they fight, and there's like he's like the tough guy that works for Delroy, and that they have to stash money at the airport, but if the people get the stuff from the airport, then they're like being tracked by, God, it's so much. The like feds are on them, so like the money is hidden in the airport, and if you take the money out, the feds are instantly going to jump on you. So that's a plot to deal with. Also, John Grease is in this. For those of you watching the recent seasons of The White Lotus, he appears in this too as like the other guy with Delroy and Gandolfini. He's also there doing stuff. Yeah, it's a who's who. Here's everyone in Hollywood, and everything just kind of works out in the end because it's a comedy. You know, Hackman, who we haven't talked about a lot, he gets a lot of the funnier moments, and you're just like, oh, he's playing an idiot who is aware of Hollywood and its tricks, and he gets injured the most. He gets into a big fight with Farina later on where it just gets absolutely knocked down a bunch because of it. Just hurts so much, just absolutely bruised and beaten, destroyed at every turn. He plays the beats so funny. He is very charming. He's very likable, and he just looks like a regular guy. And that's one of the things you gotta love about it. He just looks like a regular guy who said, I'll play the role, why not? By the end of the film, there are no real bad guys left. We get Delroy Lindo, he dies. We kill John Grease, and then Bear is like, I'll just be a stuntman, I don't care, I got a daughter to take care of. So they betrayed everyone. And we're going to make the movie. Not the movie Mr. Lovejoy, but we're going to have director Harry Zim and star Martin Weir, and Renee Rousseau will be in it. Her name is Karen? Yeah, Karen, I think. And the producer is going to be Chili Palmer. He's going to take his story of being this gangster who has to travel from the place where the guy stole the money from the laundromat, bring it all the way over to here in Vegas and get the money back and put it in the airport. And then Farina's characters will be the bad guy. So there's a really interesting sequence where it goes from the actual sequence where Farina's getting his money from the airport and the feds show up to just transitioning that to the fake movie they're making about it. Very clever. Works for me. Some of it doesn't, though. I wish this just worked for me more, But just the whole thing of Hollywood, ain't it weird? I know it is. Thank you. Sometimes that stuff's very hit or miss for me. This is just one that didn't necessarily work. But Hackman is so good in it. And I think Delroy Lindo's just so crazy in it. And Dennis Farina, my God, this guy is insane. It also looks really cool, like we're actually filming in Hollywood. So everything looks perfect. And when you have Travolta damn, this place looks really cool, that part of it can work as well, too. It's a fine little movie that gets its job done, and I think a lot of people can appreciate that and want to see stuff like that. So I have nothing against Get Shorty on that aspect. But as far as, one of my movies I think is, titular and important, this isn't one. I might watch it again if somebody wanted to, but I think it's fine. It's fine comedy of the 90s, self-referential Barry Levinson. So that's going to do it for this episode of Comedic Tales. Thank you all for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And of course, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.